When we look at medieval portraits today, especially those depicting bishops, abbots, and high-ranking church officials, we usually see symbols of authority, devotion, and spiritual power. Their faces appear calm, their robes magnificent, their posture dignified. For centuries, we have accepted these images as simple representations of religious leaders. But what if these portraits are not as innocent as they seem? What if these images contain details that hint at something far more unusual, something deliberately hidden in plain sight? This story is not about proving a single truth. It is about observing patterns, questioning assumptions, and exploring a possibility that history textbooks rarely encourage us to consider. Let us begin with a small detail, so small that most viewers never notice it. The ears. The missing feature no one talks about. Across hundreds of medieval paintings from different regions and centuries, one strange feature appears again and again. The ears of high-ranking clergy are either completely absent or carefully concealed. Sometimes thick hair covers them. Sometimes a rigid collar blocks the view. Sometimes a complex headdress leaves no visible opening at all. This repetition is important. Artists of the Middle Ages were highly attentive to anatomy when required. They painted wrinkles, veins, scars, and subtle expressions with remarkable precision. So why would such a basic human feature repeatedly vanish? A single example might be dismissed as artistic style. Dozens of examples form a pattern. And patterns demand attention. Faces that feel artificial. Look closely at the faces themselves. Many appear strangely lifeless. The eyes are fixed, cold, almost glass-like. The skin often looks unnaturally smooth, too smooth. In other cases, facial proportions feel subtly wrong, as if something beneath the surface does not quite match the outer form. The overall impression is unsettling. Not the face of a living human being, but something closer to a mask. If these faces are masks, the next question becomes unavoidable. What are they hiding? Hands that do not look alive. The mystery deepens when we examine the hands. In countless paintings, bishops are shown blessing, holding relics, or gripping ceremonial staffs. Yet their hands lack basic biological detail. No visible fingernails. No veins. No wrinkles. No pores. Instead, they appear seamless. Like gloves. Perfectly smooth gloves. And these gloves often include strange rings that do not sit naturally on the fingers like jewelry. Instead, they look integrated, embedded, functional. Their shapes are unusual, sometimes segmented or slotted, more reminiscent of mechanical components than adornment. This raises another uncomfortable question. Are these gloves covering human hands or something else entirely? Not clothing, but equipment? When you combine the masked faces with the gloved hands, a disturbing image begins to emerge. This does not look like fashion. It looks like full-body concealment. And concealment implies necessity. What kind of environment would require complete coverage of skin, face, and extremities? To answer that, we must examine the objects these figures carry, especially the staffs. The transparent staffs. In traditional interpretation, a bishop's staff is simply a symbol of authority. But many medieval artworks depict these staffs in ways that contradict this explanation. They are often transparent. They resemble glass or crystal. Some appear to contain internal structures. Others are wrapped with thin, wire-like elements. Wood does not look like this. Metal does not look like this. And most strikingly, real artifacts matching these depictions exist in European collections today. This suggests the artists were not inventing fantasy objects. They were documenting something real. So what were these objects? Symbols or tools? Temples as machines? To understand the function of these strange suits and devices, we must reconsider the spaces in which they were used. Ancient temples and cathedrals are architectural anomalies. Their height is excessive. Their spires reach skyward like antennas. Their geometry is precise. Their alignment follows cardinal directions. Their structures contain massive amounts of metal. What if these buildings were not only places of worship? What if they were energy installations? There is a theory, controversial but intriguing, that many ancient structures were designed to collect atmospheric electricity, harnessing the natural electrical potential between the Earth and the ionosphere. If true, these buildings would have generated extremely intense electromagnetic environments. And such environments require protection. Vestments as protective suits. Viewed through this lens, traditional clerical clothing suddenly takes on a new meaning. The linen undergarments resemble insulating layers. The outer robes, embroidered with gold and silver, resemble conductive meshes. The metal headpieces resemble grounding plates. Together, they form something remarkably similar to what modern physics calls a Faraday cage, a conductive shell that protects its occupant from external electrical fields. Even the small golden bells sewn into hems find a possible explanation. Static electricity causes metal objects to vibrate. The bells may have functioned as early warning sensors, alerting the wearer to dangerous energy levels. Masks and gloves complete the system, eliminating all exposed skin. What once appeared ceremonial now appears functional. Miracles reconsidered. If such energy systems existed, then many so-called miracles may deserve reinterpretation. The halo around saints? Possibly a corona discharge, a visible glow caused by ionized air around a conductive object. Hair standing on end? A textbook electrostatic effect. Divine voices and visions? Possibly communication systems using icons as receivers decorated with metals and crystals. Even levitation, described in religious texts, could be explained through acoustic resonance. Modern science has already demonstrated that focused sound waves can suspend objects in midair. To an uneducated observer, these phenomena would appear divine. To an engineer, they might simply be physics. From technology to ritual, the cargo cult effect. So where did all this knowledge go? One explanation comes from anthropology: cargo cults. When advanced technology disappears, those who remain often copy its external forms without understanding its function. Over generations, tools become symbols. Procedures become rituals. Safety warnings become taboos. Vestments lose their purpose but retain their shape. Devices become relics. Operating instructions become prayers. Religion, in this view, may not be the origin of these practices, but their afterimage. A thought experiment, not a claim. It is crucial to say this clearly. This is not presented as absolute truth. It is a hypothesis, a mental exercise, an invitation to think differently. The purpose is not belief, but curiosity. Why do patterns repeat in art? Why does architecture exceed its stated purpose? Why do ancient texts sound like technical manuals? These questions matter. History is not static. It evolves as we ask better questions. The final question. Perhaps the greatest mystery is not whether this theory is correct. The real mystery is this. How much of our past have we misunderstood simply because we stopped asking uncomfortable questions? The answers may be closer than we think, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to look again.